Hello and welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars. It's always a joy to have you here, especially when we're about to share a story that glows with that rare, heart-deep kind of magic. Today we're diving into a tale about two people you know well, two artists whose private hopes quietly aligned until life, in its oddly generous way, opened a door neither of them expected to find. This is about Baktaş and Yüksel, and the wish they whispered to themselves long before they dared to speak it out loud. If you're new to our corner of the internet, make sure you tap that subscribe button so you don't miss our next stories. Now settle in, because what unfolded between Barış and Yağmur is a lesson in how a shared dream can take root in silence and bloom right in front of everyone, leaving even them stunned by how beautifully it all came together. Have you ever met someone and felt, instantly, that there was more beneath the surface? Not drama, not spectacle, just a soft hum of recognition that makes you think, I've known this person longer than today? That energy hovered around Barış and Yağmur from the moment their paths began to cross in a way that mattered. It wasn't a lightning strike, it was a gentle tug. He carried that quiet drive you feel when a person has wrestled with himself and decided to show up anyway, and she had that calm persistence that only looks effortless if you don't know how much work it takes to be that steady. Their conversations, sometimes on bustling sets, sometimes in the dead of night when Istanbul is more moon than city, stretched beyond small talk into the kinds of questions that reveal where someone's soul wants to go. They spoke about legacy without sounding heavy, about family without sounding naive, about work they still hope to do and the kind of life that would make the effort worth it. Somewhere in those talks, a wish formed. It wasn't a formal pact or a written plan. It was more like a sentence that neither of them finished, a thought that lived in glances and the space between words. You could call it a dream of building something together. Something with roots, something that would belong to both of them and still leave them free to be fully themselves. The wish sounded like a fairy tale if you were listening from a distance, the kind of thing famous people say for a headline and forget the next day. But they didn't forget. The strange part is how life responded. You would expect that a wish like that demands a fight. Calendars thrown out, priorities torn apart, a storm of decisions that leaves both people exhausted and a little resentful. That's the script we think we know. But here's what happened with Barış and Yağmur, it started to get easy. Not because they stopped working or because people cleared the way for them, but because opportunities started lining up in ways neither of them orchestrated. When his schedule looked unmovable, a casting shifted. When she thought she'd have to say no to a project she loved, a production changed locations to a place that made being together possible. Doors opened one after another, like a hallway they didn't know existed until they started walking. Maybe their quiet wish was for a shared project. Imagine Barış, who always carries 3 ideas in his pocket and a 4th in his eyes, sitting with an outline he's been too cautious to pitch. Now picture Yağmur, who has that rare skill of turning a scattered idea into a living, breathing thing, reading it and saying, what if we actually did this? What if we make a short film, something honest, something we're proud of whether it goes viral or not? And then an investor who had been circling them for months appears with the right budget at precisely the right time. A director they both trust is suddenly available. A location that had been impossible to secure gives them the green light on the same afternoon they decide to try. It sounds invented. It wasn't. Or maybe the wish was simpler and braver, to choose each other not just around work but within it, to build a life that isn't crowded out by the noise. Picture this, they're out of the city, somewhere quiet where the night is big enough to keep secrets. They talk like they always do, in fragments that somehow add up to one clear thought. I thought this would take years, one of them says. I didn't think we'd ever find the right moment. The words come out like exhale, not performance. No elaborate staging, no choreographed reveal. A tiny, unexpected ritual happens instead, a promise sealed not by spectacle, but by simple recognition. We want the same thing, we're strong enough to build it. The shock isn't the wish itself. The shock is how gently it arrives. We're trained to believe that anything real must show up with flames and struggle. If it doesn't hurt, we doubt it. But sometimes life gives you a yes that feels like a soft door sliding open. That's what caught Barış and Yağmur off guard. They had prepared themselves to grind through resistance, the long arguments, the doubts, the logistics that never cooperate. And then the calendar cleared at the last minute. The phone rang at exactly the right time. The person who was supposed to be the obstacle turned out to be the advocate. They looked at each other and laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was almost unbelievable. "I can't believe this is happening," one of them said, not as a line for the cameras but as an honest confession. "I thought we'd have to chase this for years. I never imagined it would show up like this. That's the sweetness of it." A wish kept in a gentle corner of the heart stepping into daylight, not because someone forced it out, but because the moment was ready to hold it. If you've ever felt that click, the sense that life just nodded and said, "Yes, now," you know the feeling. What makes their story compelling isn't extravagance, it's alignment. Neither Barış nor Yağmur pushed. They just stayed open. They let the signs speak and didn't rush to call them coincidences or, worse, to ignore them. And in that openness, the wish began to shape the days. Every time they could have chosen fear, every time a meeting could have turned into a delay, every time a rumor could have become a distraction, they chose trust. Not blind faith, not reckless leaps. Quiet trust. It made them brave in a way that doesn't look heroic until you notice how rare it is. Maybe the wish was for a home. Not a house with perfect lighting, but a home with a door they both have keys to, a place that sounds like their laughter at sunrise and smells like their coffee at midnight. Or maybe it was for time, for mornings that belong to them, for evenings that don't vanish into obligations. Imagine both wishes showing up together. They sign paperwork neither of them meant to sign that month. They walk through empty rooms and see their life forming like a film in development. Pictures going up, books finding their shelves, a kitchen that will end up holding more conversations than meals. The next day, a work call arrives with news that their schedules will overlap in a way that makes the move make sense. If you tried to write it in a script, you'd worry it sounded too convenient. But anyone who's lived through a stretch of grace knows convenience isn't always a lie. Sometimes it's a reward for patience. And yes, maybe there was a moment that felt like a proposal without being the classic one. Something improvised, heartfelt, unmistakable. A gesture that said, "I'm in this with you," without requiring fireworks. These are the moments that fans don't always see, not because the couple is hiding, but because some things are too tender to perform. Whether it was a ring or a promise or a look that only they fully understood, the meaning was the same. The wish had stopped being a wish and started being their life. When a secret hope steps into reality, it does something to your bond. It makes you braver, but it also makes you gentle. You know the other person held the same vision and waited with you. You know they didn't make you drag it across the line alone. That breeds a steadiness that can't be faked. For Barış and Yağmur, this is what all those little yes added up to, a deepened trust, a shared rhythm. They learned that their instincts about each other were not just romantic, they were reliable. When someone trusts your timing and holds your dream with both hands, you stand taller. You love better. You work smarter. You rest differently. There's a lesson here for anyone who's listening with their own wish tucked away. Speak it, even softly. You don't have to post it. You don't even have to announce it to your closest friends. But let yourself say it in a room where it can hear you. The world has a strange way of setting the stage when you're clear about what you want and calm about how it might arrive. We often worship struggle and ignore grace, but grace is a working partner. It's the email you didn't expect, the friend who knows exactly who to call, the delayed flight that results in the meeting you were meant to have. It's not magic in the sense of tricks, it's magic in the sense of timing. For those who admire them, Barış and Yağmur's story feels both intimate and universal. He has the kind of presence that fills a room without shouting, she has the kind of poise that makes people breathe easier. Together, they create a tone, not loud, not performative, simply sincere. To watch their wish unfold is to remember that love doesn't always come with thunder. Sometimes it arrives on tiptoe, puts down its bags, and says, "I live here now." Let's take a breath and look back at the path we've walked together today. We started with two artists who recognized something rare in one another, who allowed a quiet wish to form between them without forcing it into existence. We followed them through the small miracles of timing and opportunity, schedules that softened, invitations that matched, doors that opened with minimal noise. We considered what their wish might have been: a shared project, a home, a more rooted kind of life. And how, piece by piece, reality rose to meet it. We listened in on the disbelief and gratitude. I didn't expect it to be like this. We watched how a fulfilled wish can strengthen a bond by proving that two hearts can hold the same horizon and move toward it in step. What do we take from it? Hope isn't naive when it's paired with attention. Dreams aren't childish when they're carried with care. And alignment, with yourself, with your partner, with the moment, is not luck alone. It's a practice. It's a way of listening. It's saying, "I'm ready," and then being brave enough to recognize the yes when it whispers instead of roars. If you're waiting for your own wish to come around the corner, let this story remind you that the corner may already be turning. Stay awake to the signals. Keep your courage warm. Be willing to be surprised. To everyone who has stayed with us through this beautiful unraveling, thank you. Your time and your curiosity are the reason Secrets Behind the Stars exists, and sharing stories like this, stories that leave us a little lighter, a little braver, is what keeps us coming back. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a wish you tucked away actually show up when you least expected it? Did it arrive in a rush or in pieces? And what did you think of how gently things fell into place for Barış and Yağmur? Drop your thoughts below. We read them. We carry them into the next episode. If this moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs a nudge of hope today, and subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars so you're here when the next chapter lands. Until then, hold your wish close, and keep an eye on the door. Sometimes, it opens quietly.